Music for this episode of About to Break is provided by Cat Beach Music. Whether you're looking to score an entire film or just need to find the perfect vibe for your next commercial project, our friends Bobby and Jen Hartree have what you're looking for. Check them out today at catbeachmusic.com. Hey everybody, welcome back. You made it. It's episode 66 of the podcast featuring Andrew Delman. Andrew's a hilarious stand-up I got to work with on a show recently. One of those dudes that we had so much fun during the show, but even more fun hanging out in between other performer sets and just getting to connect. And is a good dude, man. I was like, let's get together. Let's do a podcast. And I'm so glad that we did. He's an improviser. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a former junior member at the Magic Castle. I had no idea. Also, he grew up in the city of Upland, where I currently live. And our favorite magic shop no longer exists. It was called Mega Magic and Deli. It's such a fun conversation, and there's so much in here about the business side of things and just trying to make it work and trying to keep sane in the process. So I know that you're going to enjoy this conversation as much as we enjoyed having it. Huge thank you to all the producers for making last night's live show possible. Tuesday night, we had a show again at the clubhouse. We're doing a monthly show. It's such a fun show. Thank you guys for coming out to that. Thank you to everybody who not only supported it in attendance, but those of you who are supporting us on Patreon. Again, for as little as $1 a month, you can call yourself a producer of this show. And once you start doing like $3 or $5 a month, you get some really cool perks and some behind the scenes stuff that you don't get here on the show. But thank you to everyone who's supporting us on Patreon. Makes a huge difference. I've got some public shows coming up. First of all, I'm at the Magic Castle all this week. Started on Monday, and I think I'm slated to do 24 shows this week. I love the Magic Castle. Thank you, Magic Castle, for being a place. I needed this week to go to the castle. It's been a little sad in LA. A lot of great iconic venues have been shutting down. iOS shut down. We just, this last week, got an announcement from Nerd Melt at Meltdown Comics that they're shutting down. You know, we need these kind of places. Performers need these kind of places to grow and to be creative, and basically playgrounds where adults can play. And as a society, we need places where we can go and we can escape. And so I never take for granted performing at places like the castle. It's my favorite place, and I'm in my favorite room, the parlor, all week. If you're around, come say hey. Would love to see you up there. And I got some other cool shows coming up. I'll be doing some of Scott Neary's Booby Traps on Wednesday nights in LA. I've got the dates for that on the website. And also a big announcement, May 16th. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to be coming to Atlanta. That's right. So many friends in Atlanta, and I've been teasing for a while about coming out there, and I booked a show. I'm going to be performing May 16th in the Atlanta Room at Smith's Old Bar. Great music venue, and they've been in the rules and let me come in and do my weird comedy magic thing. So thank you to Smith's Old Bar for having me, and thank you to everyone who is in Atlanta who's going to come out to that. It's not till May 16th, but mark your calendars. You can go right now to taylorhughes.com/live. That will get you to all the dates on my calendar. And hope to see you at an upcoming public show. Last but not least, thank you to everyone who's been giving us 5-star reviews on iTunes and sharing on social media. Follow along. You get to see some cool, fun pics on Instagram there, and we post stuff on Facebook about the live shows. So go check it out, About to Break Podcast, on all of those. And until I see you in person, sit back, relax, and enjoy this wonderful conversation with the hilarious Andrew Delman.
I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hey everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host, Taylor Hughes, and this week I am sitting down outside of a Phil's Coffee in glamorous Hollywood, California, with Andrew Delman. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I've finally gotten the intro, even though that was a fake intro.
That
I've
was
finally
the fake
gotten it
one.
down. Like, I used to be, the minute they would be like, I'm sitting here with, I'd be like, hello, everyone. And they're like, and they get so mad.
Wait for it,
Yeah,
Delman.
they're like, okay, we're going to have to do that again. And I'm like, why can't I just intro myself? Like,
Right.
I like to, how's it going?
It's so funny, man. Like, no one knows we don't know what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, with a podcast,
Yeah.
I started one day, I just said, okay, I'm going to have a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I made myself the host, and now here it is.
gonna take my sunglasses off, so
That's
it's more
good.
intimate. Like,
yeah,
it's
because
weird
the
if I'm
people
just
that are
sitting-
hearing you.
Well, yeah, they don't need to see me, but
Oh,
for
but
you,
for
if
me,
I'm not
it is
looking at
helpful.
you, yeah, it's a lot easier.
We're in glamorous
Yeah.
Hollywood. Describe how glamorous this is right now, because people are hearing we're live from Hollywood, California.
It's very cloudy. I feel like we're in London. It's a weird day.
It is
but,
a weird day. We're next to the CNN building, so they're just showing videos of terrible things happening.
Yeah, and people are just stopping on the road and staring at it.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, they do. People will stand and look at that TV all day long.
All the tickers and the
Yeah.
different pictures and the terror. It's
Are we
scary.
feeling any better by looking at... I notice I look every morning, I check like Facebook and Twitter and
Yeah.
Instagram, and then I check the news and I go like, well, it's still bad.
Yeah,
It's not
I
good.
was like checking the news and I just couldn't keep up. Like I'm trying to keep up. Like I was trying to keep
You're
up.
like, I need to be a good citizen. I need to be
And I'm like,
informed.
but I just don't know. I don't even know. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, this is a big one. I know that, but I don't know who this is.
This guy, I've heard that name before.
Yeah.
He's in the government.
Yeah, one of my friends made like a Mueller joke the other day, and I was just like, because I knew it was like really smart, but I didn't. It's so sad.
And then later you're Googling it and going,
I'm
that
like-
was hilarious.
I'm like, oh no, he was off. I would have said
Right.
that. Yeah, actually, if I would have known what that meant, I would have taken the opposite.
I'm sad that I called him up. I was like, dude, I should have never laughed at that.
Yeah. Hey, man, I don't
Politically
really agree with
speaking,
that.
yeah.
I didn't really get it at the time, and that's not really my fault. There's so many news sources.
Oh
Yeah,
my
man.
goodness, man. Well, dude, thanks for doing this.
Of course.
You and I met literally like a week ago
at a magic show.
at a magic show that you were hosting.
I'm not
doing
a
stand-up.
magician
No.
anymore.
No, dude, you've done it. You've done the thing that I aspire to do.
I did magic. I did it. And then it was a sad story. I was a junior member of the Magic Castle,
Yes.
which is a big deal when you're a young child dreaming of doing magic professionally.
That's a big deal if you're like a 40-year-old dreaming of
Fair
doing
enough.
magic.
Well, I think the junior member now, looking back on it, they're a little nicer. You know, like if
Yes.
I wasn't the caliber of a 40-year-old. Well, some of them, but
Some
not
of
all
them.
of them.
Yeah.
So I got in and I had like a big show. My dad finally came, and he's a nice guy, but I think he sees a lot of his own insecurities in me, you know. And so like I did it, and it was very funny. But you know, flubbed a few, some bad loads, some bad stuff, and he was like, "Well, maybe we'll keep the jokes and lose the magic." And that's like really hard to hear, especially when you're like, "I'm at the magic house. I did
Dad,
it."
I've done it.
He
I've
should've
achieved
just
my
been like,
life goal at 12.
Cool, man, or whatever. Like that would have been enough to keep me going.
That's all I
Like,
needed.
He didn't have to say anything, and I would have kept going. But he like went out of his way to be like, "Here's the note: lose all of the magic, keep the joke."
See, I've joked that I wanted to be a stand-up, but I had too good of a relationship with my father. So
See, that makes
I had
sense.
to go with magic.
Yeah, because then I went back. I did the stand up then. So like then I'm 17. I go and do some stand up. The Comedy Store. I get into a show. I don't have any friends over the age of 21.
Which
so
again, Comedy Store is like the magic castle of comedy.
yeah, but I was able to find a way in that's not as respectable now. You know, it's more like, hey, can you bring a bunch of people? Yeah, I totally can. All right, then. Then
We'll
you
give
can
you 10
perform.
minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like it sounds it'll sound really glamorous in the biopic, but right now it's the truth is it was just some gritty weirdo who was like, "You want a chance, kid?"
He's like, look, if I rent the room for $300, I
Yeah,
charge each of these kids $50
pretty
for a
much.
class.
Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah. It's a class and there's a graduation.
I get a
show.
door deal on the drinks. Why do they all talk like that? Why is that always the sketchy guy?
Yeah, or girl.
Or
But
girl.
still talks like
Still
that.
the same.
Yeah,
30
yeah,
years
yeah.
of smoking.
Yeah. No,
So you go to do the show.
did the show. My dad shows up and like literally I was like, how was it? And I thought it was, I mean, I could feel that it wasn't the best, but I thought it was good. It was better than the
Right.
magic show. And he was like, well, maybe we should bring back the magic. And then I was just like, well, fuck, man, I'm never going
Right.
to impress this guy. So I went to school and then I took a break from all of it.
Well, it's funny, man,
Yeah.
because we both grew up doing magic.
Yeah.
You did the juniors, so I did the juniors, but I'm a few years ahead of you.
Yeah.
You graduated 2005.
Yeah.
I graduated 99.
Oh, nice.
I just look like 20 years older than you because I have a real strong past.
yeah. Okay.
But
and it just shows itself.
it just shows, yeah.
yeah.
I actually dyed this for a part.
Oh, yeah. And you're like, this is.
I was like,
working.
I need to go for this
Silver
gray,
Fox,
right?
I'm going. Yeah.
I've got the Clooney thing. I just need the face and the money, and I'll be set. But yeah, man, we both did the Castle Juniors.
Yeah.
But what's funny now is I just moved to Upland a year ago. You grew up in Upland, and we're like, I got to get out of here as soon as I can.
Yeah, I know. And it's kind of funny we were talking about that, and then like douchily being like, save it for the podcast.
That's such an LA thing.
But you have to. It has to be organic.
Like, I want it to be organic. I don't want to meet beforehand because I just want to capture the magic.
Let's just show up. Let's do our small talk there. We kind of switched places. Well, we switched places a little. I grew up in Upland where you currently reside, and then I had to get out of there. I think it was just mainly like that city is just, it's different. It's uptight in different ways, and it's also chill in a lot of ways, you know, but it was a good place to be raised in sense of like, got a good education. Like I only had one gun pulled on me, you know, just one in the whole upbringing.
And that was like an uncle, right?
Yeah. And that was, he was just showing it to me.
He was just like, look, this, I want to show you some safety.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a real one. Yeah, so it was a good place to be, but I just had to get out. I just, you know, I wanted to do this. And when you drive to the Magic Castle as a kid, or when you drive into the city, it was so awesome because you go through that one part downtown, which when you actually move here, you find out that's not. No. That's what was exciting. Yeah. Not really Hollywood. I was like, look at these buildings.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, wow.
My dad's like, see the West End Bond Adventure, the top. It spins around. I'm like, oh, man.
Wow. There's a Capitol Records building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a circle.
It's a circle. Everything's circular that's powerful in this city.
Yeah, it's a phallic thing.
That's true. That's really what it is. Oh, my goodness. I've never thought about that before.
So I just had to get out of Upland. I moved out here, and I'm pursuing the dream.
When you've done, it's interesting to me because you've done a lot. You've done commercial acting a ton.
Yeah.
You've done like 50 different commercials or something?
35 to 50. I stopped counting because that's really pretentious to count. Like at a certain point.
Well, yeah, because we both have friends who right now are just bashing their head against the wall because they've gone to 400 auditions and haven't booked one yet.
Yeah, no, totally. And there's different levels to it for sure. Like I definitely respect it now. Like when I first moved out here, I didn't respect it at all. Like I was one of those like, I'm not here for commercials, man. Like I'm here to do comedy. And then they're like, where do you perform? And I'm like, well, you know, I was pretentious on every level because when I was in college, I lucked out and they had a really good improv and sketch team that a lot of huge people have come from. Yeah. And it was called the Live Nude People, and it originated at UC Irvine. And people like Chris Kelly, who was the head writer of SNL, he came from there.
It's crazy.
Rumors are he started it. But there's a lot of huge people at UCB that all came from there, and I got to perform with all of them. And there wasn't much to do in Irvine. So we would have like anywhere from 100 to 300 people at every show.
Wow.
At my last show, I got a standing ovation, which is awesome. And then I came out here, and then there's like no one in the audience, and I'm like, "Fuck this place!"
You're like, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. But
you're like, I've made something. I'm ready to take it to Los Angeles.
But
Los Angeles didn't show up.
What the world was trying to teach me is like, why would you ever have an ego? Like what you were doing was small peas compared to anything. And then I got out here thinking I deserved. And then instead of going back and putting the work in, I just would make excuses and I wouldn't go out. And so then we can skip wherever. But like I had that, and then
you wouldn't go out for stuff. You'd just be like,
no, I didn't. I mean, like how are you going to go out for stuff? No, I wouldn't go out for anything. I wasn't too big for it. But it's like I do a show at like midnight on a Monday. And there would be no, like, I'm not even, when I say no one, I literally mean no one. Like, not even like a guy at the door. Like, I'd have to turn the mic on and just talk. And I'm like,
you're like, why are we still going? Like,
yeah. And then another guy would just show up right at the end and be like, is it my turn now? And you're like, what is this? So I got frustrated because I felt like I deserved more, even though that's so conceited. And I know that now. But,
well, see,
but you have to make mistakes somewhere so you can learn something. Like no one can just do it perfect the first time.
Yeah, so. I have to remind myself of that constantly. Like you watch a great guitarist and you're like, that guy used to not know how to play a G chord. Yeah. Like that guy sucked for 2 years before he could do anything.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about this because you have a very interesting perspective having done magic.
Yeah.
on a pretty significant level. I mean, you were doing the juniors and like doing some stuff.
Mega Magic and Deli was my
Mega
hangout.
Magic and Deli was Sam, dude.
Yeah,
Sam Command.
Yeah, that was it.
Dude, I was like, look forward to those monthly shows they do.
I love that place. That's like where I learned. That's the reason why I did magic. And then when that place closed, magic had officially died for me.
Yeah. They had a legit ham and cheese sandwich too.
Oh, dude.
I was
the
like,
deli was just as good as the magic.
It's one of those things where you see like a place that sells like ice cream and they also like repair your computer and you're like, who thought of that?
I love that place
but
so much.
But it was so good.
Like you just go in for a sandwich, that was good, and some dude's just performing some magic and you're like, cool, man. In the middle of Chino.
I guess I'll just buy some magic tricks after I eat a sandwich.
It was amazing and I loved it. And it was like such a different thing than anything in Upland had. So I used to go there all the time. I would take the classes. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
But when it closed, there was no like everything else is like the poser magic stores. Like, you know, the weird ones.
Like Houdini's.
Yeah.
Where it's just
exactly. It's just gimmicks. And then it's like, or you had to really, and you know, at that point in my life, I was like, well, my dad already said lose the magic, and now the store's gone. I might as well just
shut
jokes.
it down.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious because like for me, having done magic mostly, and like a lot of comedy in the magic, but it's all situational around tricks, you know?
Yeah.
And then like a few years ago, I was like, that's it. I'm going to start taking improv. I'm going to start going to open mics.
Yeah.
And dude, the first open mic I went to, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because as a magician, the only way you get better is by performing in front of a real audience.
Yeah, totally.
And looking awful and messing up.
Well, that's the same with stand-up.
But what's interesting in stand-up is so many of the open mics are just, there's like nobody there. There's like 3 other comics who are just like writing notes of what they're going to say.
So my theory.
Yeah, give me the theory.
So, I feel like my story is like is kind of different. Like some people, they have no experience. They come out, they get raised in the improv scene. As you've already heard, I did the magic, and then I did stand up, and then I quit stand up because I was afraid. Like after my dad was like, "Get back the magic" or whatever, I was just too young. I was doing jokes like literally like. Just turned 17, just got my driver's license. Anyone know about a driver's license? And literally someone would be like, you suck. Like, I couldn't handle it. I'm like, Dad, stop.
No punchlines, just cadence.
No punchlines, just cadence.
What's the deal with driving, right?
Like, freaking, what's up with the guy signaling me when he doesn't know what
merging on the freeway? That's scary, am I right?
Right, it's scary. Yeah, or like I got a D on my report card, and my dad's like, "Why'd you do that?" And I was like, "I didn't mean to." And it's like horrible, just bad, just silence, like amazingly silent. And like I wasn't strong enough, and so I quit. And then I was like, "All right." Third time's the charm.
Were you tempted to pick up the magic, or you were just done with it at that point?
Well, I mean, like I would read Royal Road to Card Magic, and I always had a few tricks in the back pocket. But I was like, that experience was kind of weird too, because it was like I'm getting hired for kids' birthday parties, and also I thought most of the stories were really lame, and I would change them all to my own. And
because people don't realize that, like, when you're a comedian, you write your jokes, and when you're a magician, you just say what it says in the instructions.
Yeah, and it's true, and that's always one of the things that I some of the magicians I love. You realize, oh, that's just this trick repackaged as like another trick, you know? Or that's a completely made up trick of these bits. That was what I was more interested in.
Yeah,
but I stopped doing that when I and stand up when I went to college, and I just focused on acting. And when I was there, that's when the improv group was there, and then I joined the improv team, and then that did really well. And so then I'm like, why would I ever do any of those other things I failed at?
Yep.
I'm just going to do this improv thing. And then I moved out here and then got a real big taste of it. I mean, I got really far. I did all the Groundlings.
Yeah.
And then that's where I ended up meeting my wife, but I ended up getting voted out of there. I didn't know you could be voted out. Yeah.
Like Survivor style?
Yeah. No, seriously.
Did they have like tiki torches?
I survived for 8 years there. 8 years. So I started taking them when I was 18, the classes, and each one, well, the first few take a while, and then when you make it to the intermediate, when I was doing it, the program's changed a lot, but you used to have to audition to get into level 3 with this exercise called 5 through the door.
Okay.
5 through the door. You're sitting in front of a panel of ghost judges. You don't know who they are. Could be Frau Barbishna from Austin Powers. Could be anybody, because they're all Groundlings. And so they're sitting there, Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry. You don't know who's back there. You can't even see them. And you just have to do this exercise where in one scene, you're the straight man and you're running a store. And then someone comes in and they have to do 5 different characters that are completely different from each other. So they have to come in, do a transaction as a character, and then leave. And then close the door, come in 5 times, and then they have to transition to that person. It's just like a streamline of just like, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out, you suck.
Just rapid fire.
Yeah, and so I passed that, and that was a big deal for me. And then I got into advanced, which is the final, like...
Yeah, that's as big as you can do.
Yeah, and then I did not pass, and that really hurt my feelings because the teachers all told me I was going to pass, the audience, everyone, and I saw it with my own eyes. I even watch it still. It's like when I turned into like Uncle Rico rewatching. I'm like, look at that sketch. Look at that's a funny fucking sketch right there. I could have been on that thing, like just like losing it over nothing.
I yesed and I ended and I did it all.
Come on. Like, oh man. And then my girlfriend at the time, who was below me in the program, and was like, because if you really break it down, Groundlings is like Scientology. and so
there's a little multi-level marketing aspect to
dude.
improv.
They make it like you separate everyone. You're like, UCB sucks. And they're like, have you ever been? No. Why would I go?
I don't like their technique.
Yeah.
I don't like what they say about the game.
Yeah. And I do actually think that did kind of bite me in the butt, which is so pretentious. But
so funny, dude. I've never heard
I
anyone
was
say
studying
that.
at UCB while I was waiting in between Groundlings, and people were like, yo man, like if they find out about dude, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't get into this level.
Dude, that's a funny ass sketch right there.
Oh, I know.
You're sitting in there and they're like got you holding the cans and they're like, tell me what happened.
No, and literally to the point where I was in advance finally, and one of the teachers, I won't name his name, at Groundlings, I did a sketch, and he's like, well, I've heard you've been taking a lot of classes at the UCB. He said the UCB.
That's so funny.
Like an old man who's so out of touch.
How long ago was this?
In 2012.
So this is when UCB was just like...
Huge.
Because now UCB is like...
No, they're kind of coming down.
Yeah.
I think this is pinnacle, top of their game.
And it was funny. It's like all the other schools were threatened by it a little bit.
Sure.
iOS just closed.
I know it did,
which is
and that's
unbelievable.
Where I started as well. And so he was like, maybe save that kind of humor for the other comedy houses, but that won't work here. I'm like, comedy house? Like, it was so weird.
He's talking like a 1940s gangster.
Yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, this is weird. And then I got voted out, which really hurt my feelings because most of them would come up to me and be like, you're in. And I'm like, I'm in? And they're like, you're in. I'm like, I'm ready to, okay, are we going to sacrifice someone? Like, I was mentally preparing to get into the secret society of comedy.
Yeah.
Then I got voted out, but guess what?
What?
And not that she didn't deserve it, because she is the funniest person I know, but my girlfriend, who's my now wife, it all worked out. She got voted in.
Yep.
The whole thing did it. So I'm like, you're trying to fuck me. You're literally trying to like get in there. And like they did the same thing with her. They would like, I was like a negative reinforcement because I was doing like UCB. It was hilarious. It was the same thing. You watch Going Clear and you're like, that's it on a different level.
This reminds me of my mega church experience.
I hear you. And so
that's crazy,
man.
So
after that, this is going to sound so dramatic. But it took me about 4 years to get over it.
Yeah.
Get over, because as I told you, I moved out here and I already had a big ego, and then that got broken, and then I built it back up from scratch, and then it got broken again. And I'm really fragile and also like super like Jewy, insecure, like also like frenetic and crazy. And so I'm just like, this is it. And
this is it. If I don't get this.
Yeah. And then I was like, all right,
dude.
Well, yeah. So.
Well, this podcast is called About to Break because you're like this close to a breakthrough or like this close to a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like, there used to be, especially in comedy, there was this idea that like you get one big break.
Yeah. Well, that's how it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be you would go on, go on Carson, he'd invite you over, and then you were like
if
a star the next
day. If you sat on his couch,
day.
you'd have a sitcom the next day.
Even at his home. Like if you just showed up at his house and you sat on the couch, it was like a magical thing.
It was, yeah.
But nowadays, it's literally, I feel like entertainment is just constant heartbreak and then highs, heartbreak and highs.
I mean, I used to think it was lame, but someone would say, and now I agree with it, but they would say like, overnight sensation, and they're like, yeah, but you haven't seen them working really hard for 10 years. It's like you just don't know who they are because they're not famous.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they do something good and you're like, where'd they come from? Well, Google them for a minute and see that they went to the Royal Shakespeare, and they did this and that and this and that. Everyone I know that is an overnight sensation, you look and you're like, okay, all right, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
And then you find out they played all these parts that you remember watching, but didn't know it was even them.
that was Jason Bateman.
That's right. He did that barbecue commercial.
No, I totally. Oh yeah, like Aaron Paul was the what was that? The gotta have my pops. He was that kid. Yeah. But
he was always addicted, man. It was that.
I'm good at fiending for things.
Oh gosh,
and making other people.
Let go my ego, Mr. White.
Yeah. That was it too. Yeah, that was good. No, so I was lucky enough though. So the other thing that I think I learned and was really interesting is like when you for me at least, I don't mean to be self-sabotaging, but when I really, really love something, I kind of get in my own way because I take it so serious that I like make it life or death, anything. Like if I'm voted out of this, oh my God, I'm going to die now. Whereas commercials, I'm like, I don't want to do commercials. I'm like, I'm not going to be a commercial guy. Like I don't look like I have this crazy hair. Like I just didn't think it was going to be for me. Well, you know.
So what got you to go out for a commercial if you were like, I don't want to?
I'm saying. So like, and also I had a breakup with them. I had a commercial agent when I was in college, and she was literally like, I auditioned for a Wendy's commercial. I had a breakdown in the commercial because at that time I was putting that on the pedestal, and literally it was for Wendy's, and the premise was me and this girl are on a bus. And she has like a Slurpee in her hand, and I like put the straw in the Slurpee, and I put it in my mouth, and I'm like, "That's pretty good." And she's like, "You should get your own or something."
Yeah.
Well, they had a real product in the audition, and I just went over her, and I didn't hold the straw right, and all the slushy like spilled on her. And then I like didn't know what to do, so I just kind of turned into like that. Like at that time, Dane Cook was a big influence, so I just turned into like a dick. I'm like, "Sorry, babe," and then I like grabbed the thing and I drank. And they're like, "What was that?" Yeah, like why would you grab the drink from? Like you're just a monster. So I left leaving. She's like, "Hey, asshole, like you spilled on my audition shirt." And I just beelined it. And then my agent called me. She's like, "What happened?"
And what did you do? You really upset the Wendy's people.
Yeah, I did
Dave
this.
Thomas
I did this.
called directly.
Yeah, she's like, "You're not even in SAG." And that was your one chance, like life or death, life or death, life or death. So then she was like, "You got to quit college or you got to quit me." And I'm like, "I guess I'm going to quit you because I can't. My dad will murder me if I quit college." So when I came back in, I was doing a sketch and I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I didn't really know. One of my friends asked me to be in it. And so there was this humongous guy. He was like a bodybuilder and he was like 6'5". And the premise of the commercial was he like kind of grabs me and chokes me against a wall sort of thing. Yeah. And I'm just supposed to be terrified.
Right.
I was actually terrified. like I had no idea what any of this was.
Well, that's like the one rule of acting is don't act.
Yeah, exactly. And it was probably genius of him not to explain it for me. But I'd be like freak out, and the guy would be like, "Man, you're hilarious," and I'm like, "No, I'm genuinely terrified." And he's like, "You should. Do you do a bunch? You probably book 1 million commercials." And I'm like, "I don't even have an agent." And he literally throughout the day would just laugh in my face every time I get scared. I was like, "Do you think you'd introduce me to your agent?" And he did. And then that was the end of it. Like he introduced me to his agent, and then I was like, "Okay, so I'm just not going to care about this because it's not going to work. None of it's worked." Yeah. And that was what the trick was. And everyone says, just don't care about it. And you're like, shut up, that's pretentious. Yeah, right. But it honestly was. It was like, I would get all these auditions and I was like, there's no way I'm going to book this. There's no way. Right. It wasn't. And then I got a few callbacks and I was like, whoa, all right. Like, hey, man, callback. And then you go in there and when you go into a commercial callback, there's like 10 people in the room and you're like, oh, an audience. Like, it's kind of weird, Then, I booked one commercial and it was a non-union commercial, but it was with Phil Mickelson, the golfer. And I was like, oh man, and it made my dad, it was the first time he was ever like truly proud.
He's like, very good. Very
and I made this like dumb joke up. Like Phil Mickelson was like pouring himself he was pouring himself an Arnold Palmer. And I was like, wait, pouring Arnold Palmer? Like I made fun of him for pouring an Arnold Palmer. And I told my dad that. And every time my dad's like, yeah, he was on him and Phil. And he called Phil out for making an Arnold.
Got a party story for the rest of his life.
And so with Magic, he's like, that's out. Comedy's out. And I'm like, dude, I won. I'm finally accepted. Like Phil Mickelson.
That's it. Dude, I think that's it. I really do think you've summarized parenthood. I think parents just want a good story to tell at a party about their kids.
But that lasts for a while though. And then like after that commercial, he's like, all right, now let's get some lines. And you're like, bro, like, yeah, you're like, come on, man. Like, I'm working on it. Like, I'm trying. I'm giving it my all. So I still thought that was a fluke though. Like, cause that was a one and done. And I just didn't think it would happen again. And so, long story short.
But now you're with this guy's agent, the strong man.
Yeah, well, they're the ones that got me the audition because it's impossible to get called in without an agent. Like literally, once I've done it now for a while and I've met some of them, they'll show me the submissions. They'll be like, okay, so here's a submission for Best Buy, right? And I go, okay. And they'll scan through 15,000 submissions. And they're like, you want to know what we do? I go, yeah. They go, we go to our favorite agents. They click the 4 agents, and then those agents are only allowed to submit like 4 people now. Yeah. It used to be they could submit everyone. Yeah. And they pick their best 3 or 4, and then they only bring in, they might bring in probably like 50 to 100 still. But I mean, like out of 15,000, and then from that, they'll cut it down to like, I don't know, like 20 people for the callback, and then from there they'll put 2 people on avail, probably 2 to 3, and then 1 person will get it, and then if they stay in the commercial, they could potentially make enough to live.
Right. For a while.
Yeah. But so for me, like, I think the big one for me was like, I respected commercials, but I thought it was a fluke, as I was saying. I thought it was like a one-off.
Yep.
And meanwhile, I'm pursuing my dreams of being a stand-up, and none of it's working. But yet,
I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
When you say none of it's working?
Well, I mean, like it's just like, you assume that you would do good at a set and someone would come up and be like, here's a show. And that doesn't happen. And you think that would happen. Right. Because you've seen it always happens to the guy right next to you. They're like, you are hilarious. And like, he is hilarious, but his shtick is he has no arms, and that's his shtick. and he is very funny. Right. But like or whatever. And so you would always feel like why not me? It was the same as like when you were the best friend and like the hot kid, like the girl would always come up and be like, tell Mike I have a crush on him. And I'm like, all right, cool. Mike, she has a crush on you. Anyone say anything? No one said anything. Okay. No one said anything about me. All right. That's cool, man. We'll get him next time.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the About to Break podcast. 3 quick ways that you can help us out here at About to Break. The first one is to go on iTunes and leave us a review. If you enjoy the program, please leave us a 5-star review. Big thank you to everyone who's already done that. If you haven't yet, please jump over to iTunes. You'll need your iTunes account information. But you can click on the podcast, leave us a 5-star review. Just leave us a 1 or 2 sentence little blurb there. Let people know what you like about it. That helps us out huge. Second way you can help us at About to Break is by becoming a producer. Our goal is to have 1,000 people giving at least $1 a month to help offset the cost of producing these shows. And it does take time. And it is a passion project. I will continue putting these out for free because I think it's a helpful conversation. But anything you can do to help us out by producing the show would be awesome. Go over to abouttobreakpodcast.com, click on Become a Producer, and see what that's all about. Last thing that you can do, and this one is also a real simple way of making a difference, is just sharing the podcast. All right, when you see it out there on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, go ahead and follow along and then share it with your friends. Let someone else know how much you liked it, because it sure does make a difference. All right, back to the program.
What happened is like then I one night I had a callback for a big company for Bing. It was like Google, the MSN version, like right when that was coming out. And they were, whoever got it, there's only one person in the commercial. Whoever got it, they were going to fly him to Hawaii for a week.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, all SAG, all big deal, all stuff. And I wasn't even in SAG yet. And so I was like, there is a 0% chance this is going my way. So the night before the audition, we had already had like months ago planned like a poker night with all my college roommates, which you know how this is going to go. We just like, debaucherous and got really drunk and did everything. The night before,
because you don't care. You don't think you're going to get it.
I'm not going to get it. There's no chance.
Is this like, I'm going to go just to keep the agent happy that I showed up?
Yeah,
or
of course. Like, I'm going to show up and then hopefully one day, one day it will work out. But like, who knows? And so I don't know. It just wasn't. I just didn't think it was like too cookie cutter. Like I was like, they're going to choose a clean cut guy. Right. They're not going to choose this guy. So I go in there. Oh, I wake up in the morning and I am so hungover. Sick hungover. I've never been this hungover. I'm like puking, the whole thing. And then I'm like, I have to go to this. So I drive all the way in an hour and a half traffic to Santa Monica, like basically driving with my face on the steering wheel.
Yeah, what have I done?
Yeah, and being like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired again.
Yeah.
But whatever. I get there, I kind of pull it together, get in there, and I just give them what I got.
Yeah.
And they loved it. They loved it. And I was just like, oh shit. And then I leave and they're like, hang around. And I hung around. I had to hang around, like hungover and dying. Yeah. And I hung around. And then I ended up like driving home, and then I had to go to another audition. And then literally I get a phone call and they're like, hey, they want you to come back for another. And at least I'm better by this point. But so I go back there and they're loving it. And I was like, what is happening? Then I book it. Yeah. And I was like, okay,
you're like,
this
what?
is that's when I was like, okay, I have to think about this. Like, why did this work? When I put everything I ever had into everything else, like I put my heart and my soul and my vulnerability and my passion, but that never
Those
worked.
ones didn't work.
But then that I was getting irresponsible and drunk and dumb. Why did that work? So when I sat and thought about it, I was like, it's because I didn't care. Yeah. And I was finally just me. Like, I really was. Because when you're trying to when you're trying to impress everyone, you're like, well, what do they want to hear? What do they want to do?
Oh, yeah.
But then when you actually just be like, this is me, they're either going to say no or yes, but they're not going to be mad at you. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh, shit, like... And then I killed it on the commercial. And then it was like the dream thing. It was 5 days in Hawaii. And then like the commercial was amazing. It aired. It did great.
Which is what you want to have happen. You don't want it to go bad and then you're still in Hawaii just like,
I know. I made like really big relationships. It was just a dream come true. The producers like me. It all worked out. And then I came back and I was like, wow. And then I'd go into these auditions with this new bravado that like I've just come back from Hawaii, you know, like I just filmed this commercial, and then the casting directors knew me because I was a big audition they did. And it was so weird just like having that confidence going in there and being like, all right, like whatever happens. I just started booking and I've lucked out.
It's that combo of you not caring, like caring enough to not care, but also the fact that you booked a big one, because there's this weird thing, too, where nobody wants to hire you to do a thing you haven't done before.
No, it's true. And
you know what I mean?
Weird.
Which is so tough because it's hard to, like, break into anything. But then once you've done it, then I think you're right. It also gives you a confidence that, like, well, I've done it. I can do it again.
It gives them a confidence. Yeah. It gives everyone a confidence. Like, if they Google me, they'll see the commercials I've been in. They're like, oh, he can do it. Right. Also, the casting directors know me enough now. Only commercially I'm talking. I haven't figured out the other ones yet. But they'll talk like, oh, no, he's good. He's good. Like if they're nervous, he's done it. He's done this and this. But, like, the TV and film thing, I'm playing that game again, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm finally at the place where I'm no longer nervous because I would do the same thing, though. Like, even though I know this, it's like the frustrating thing is you hear the strategy.
Right.
You even know it in other fields. Yeah. But you can't practice it. Like, I'm still like, but I want to be a stand-up and an actor. And then every time I would show up to even an audition where I know I'm not going to get it, I can't like remove myself, or I couldn't remove myself from the part. Right. And so the only thing that really kept me going after the Groundlings was the commercials. Because I was kind of like, well, I was in an interesting position. A lot of my friends had like hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, and they could do any sketch and it would get 1 million retweets and blogs, but they were making no money, and they were like struggling. Yeah. And I was always so jealous of them. I'm like, you know what I would do? I would kill for 100,000 followers. And they were like, I would kill for a commercial. And it was this grass is greener. Right.
First world problems.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry. First world problems. And then I was like, I would say really dumb things again. Like, I've never been so bored, but I've never had so much money and so nothing to do because I was just afraid of performing. Yeah. And I was afraid of everything. And
it's this weird thing of like, as a performer, it's not consistent work. Yeah. So even if you do a commercial, let's say you nail a commercial, and that's going to give you 6 months worth of income. Yeah. But then if you haven't booked something else, there's that weird thing of like, well, I've got money in the bank. Yeah. But I'm also like, if I'm a banker, every day I go in the office and I do whatever bankers do. Yeah. Or if you're a dentist, it's like, where do you practice? Yeah. But people hear you're a comedian and they go, well, where are you performing? Or what can I see you in? Or you're an actor, but you haven't done anything I know about. You must not.
It's true. And when you're not doing anything, That's a really hard question to continue getting. Like, because it's like after Groundlings, I didn't have any shows lined up because no one hands you shows. You have to actually work to get shows.
Yep.
And I didn't know that at the time. And I was so hurt and kind of offended and confused and whatever. I was like, I don't get any of my auditions myself from commercials. That's all my agents. Like, I wish I could just have an agent to give me the shows. Well, it doesn't work that way. Well, it doesn't, and then it does, but you have to do all the work. It's much more work than the commercial game. And the commercials do help sometimes, like, to get you TV agents if the commercials are big enough, but it's all just baby steps. Like, it's only commercials or whatever else, and then you get seen, and then you have to reach out to people, and you have to, and
there's that weird balance too of like doing like, say, commercials. You could become really well known for that, but then you don't want to get pigeonholed into, well, he's just a guy that does commercials. So they don't think about you for other things, or
they just don't. Like, I've worked with some of the like Oscar-winning directors, and like I don't get caught. They love me. I've done like 3 commercials with some of them, and they've never been like, "Hey, you should audition for I, Tonya," or whatever. Like, because I've worked with that guy, but he never once was like. But it's separate to them. They're just like, you're at this audition, you do this. Like, if my agent was big enough to get me an audition with him for a movie, he might be like, "Oh yeah, that guy from The Thing," you know. But no one really. They're thinking about too many other things, and you do take it personally. You're like, why is that guy getting more attention than me? Well, he probably is really annoying behind closed doors and emailing people all day long, or he's really good. Yeah, but there's some people that are just really good. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. The psychotic person gets the show. It's you just have to kind of either be really desperate or a little just psychotic,
and keep yourself going out to stuff. Because a big part of it is being around. Like,
So I'm trying to do it another way for some reason, because
I'm glad we decided to record this right by all the ambulances,
a fire station. I'm trying to figure out a different way, because I can't do it, man. I can't. It's really hard for me to like just hit someone up and be like, yo, like. Give me a show. You know, like that's a weird, like, how do you do that? Like, okay, what have you done? All right, well, here's 1 million commercials. Here's my role on CSI. You know, like, they're like, I don't care about any of this, you know, like. So I was lucky enough and to get back into stand-up. And then once I got back into stand-up, it really helped everything out. And, the way I got back into it was a really close friend of mine who was big in stand-up. He was getting big in stand-up. He was going through a divorce, and he needed a place to crash. And so he's close with my now wife, and he's close with me. And so I was like, you can crash on our couch. So he's going to open mics. He's going to shows. And I'm just kind of like going with him, because I'm like, I want to get in on this, or I want to see, or I'm like, and I'd make him laugh all the time. And he would say stuff like, you would be great at this. And I'm like, well, I gave it a go one, you know, like this he's like, all right, you know. And then finally, long story short, like, I would do that. He was a good friend. He knew I needed a push, and he would just see me making all those excuses, like that insecure dad who like gave up, you know. And then one day I'm at one of his shows making the booker laugh and him laugh, and he goes, "Hey, you should book Delman. He's the funniest stand-up I know."
Wow.
And then the booker goes, "Oh, well, if Elliot says so, then yeah, man. Let's open the books when you want to go." And I'm like, oh, and I'm looking at him like, "Fuck you." But
right.
But like, now's my chance.
Now, you know? I got to do it. Yeah.
And so then I was like, he's like, how about like next week? And I'm like, actually, I got so many shows. Like in my head, I'm like, it can't be a week. So I agreed on a month from that day.
Okay.
And then I was like, once the pressure was on, thank goodness I rise to the occasion. And I went to open mics every day and just kept writing and writing and writing. And then that was what you were saying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. There's no one at them. There's no one at open mics.
Right.
Or there are a lot of people.
And they're all
but
like,
they're not looking. Yeah, they hate
comics
you.
looking down at a yellow pad, like just.
Yeah, and there's an even weird scene now that I've kind of climbed the ladder. There's open mic scene. There's a scene. There's people that don't actually get shows,
right?
Because they're not good enough yet.
Right.
But they're so kind of like pretentious that they're like, I'm a micer.
Yeah.
Like it's almost cooler than being a pro.
Yeah.
But it's just everyone trying to figure it out, and there's so many people, and so literally like my strategy was kind of, well, I lucked out. I mean, Elliot kind of like took me under his wing, and then when he saw I was getting okay at it. And that's the other thing. In LA, it's always who you know or who saw you.
Yep.
And because a lot of these people, you find out their uncle, their dad, their neighbor, their whoever, or they were seen, but it's rarely like you just get something from an audition. Like,
right.
Yeah. And so Elliot hooked me up with some of their friends. They nicely enough asked me if I wanted to go on tour with them. It was probably premature, but I said yes, and I did well. I just opened for them. Like by the time I was done, I think I had 10 minutes, and it was pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I just kind of kept going with it, and I just didn't stop. And then once that happens, you're just kind of in. And that was about 3 years ago. And then like it got to the point where I was like, well, how do I get shows now?
Right.
I'm like, I still am not ballsy enough to just be like, hey, I'm better than everyone else. Put me on your show.
Put me on, yeah.
So then I was like, all right, the only thing I can think of is I can put on a show that's really good and book people on it. And then if they like the show, they'll book me on it.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now.
That's brilliant, man.
Yeah.
When I started this podcast, like I started this out of a need for therapy, but
totally.
I was running out of money for therapy.
Yeah, totally.
Therapy was great, but it was like these kind of conversations are the ones that encourage me.
Yeah, totally.
Because like you flip on late night and it's like, oh great, all these guys are telling their 7-minute success stories.
Yeah.
And
but that doesn't even mean anything anymore.
It doesn't.
I have friends. I mean, but that's the same thing. Like I feel like when you're doing it, you start to appreciate it more. Like when you're not doing it, but you want to do it so bad.
Right.
At least for me, everyone who is doing it, you nitpick them and you hate them because they're doing what you want to do. And they're not even doing it well, maybe, but the fact that they're doing it and they're getting success would make me so jealous. And like now that I do it, I realize like, oh shit, like I have so much appreciation for some of these people because you're like, it is so hard. And it really is. And it's like, but it is fun. I do feel more fulfilled. I don't need as much therapy.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I'm getting better, but I feel like I'm moving forward. And you're just like, and you are getting better at whatever it is, but it's like I used to get nervous before shows to where I couldn't eat, like just the day of the show I'd be having a panic attack, But now it's just time and I was like an atheist when I moved out here, and I'm still like, I'm not super religious, but you have to have faith.
Right.
You have to have faith in something, but like it doesn't have to be a higher power, but just like, just keep going.
There is something that perpetual, like moving forward, it does bring you a little bit of hope of like, oh wow.
Yeah, you can, you start to feel it. Yeah. Like, and then you also start to feel like I went to Iceland for my honeymoon and I was only gone like 2 weeks and it was great, but like, I felt like weaker, and I was like, I need to get shows, like I'm not performing, and then I got up to stage, I was like kind of nervous again, you just lose it.
It's so weird, man. Yeah. So much of it is this mental game that we play with ourselves, or I don't even know what. I totally get it though, man. Yeah. It's like, I'm doing the castle again next week. Yeah. The Magic Castle for me is like my favorite place to do magic because
awesome.
I mean, most of my work, people didn't come to see a show; they came to like their annual convention and surprise, this guy's going to do 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But last, maybe 6 months ago, I did the castle.
Yeah.
And you'll do 21 shows in a week.
Whoa. That's insane.
It's nuts. It's 3 shows a night. The third night, second show.
Yeah.
I was feeling great.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this guy that I really respect comes in and is like, hey, can I sit in your show? I was like, sure. And I pre-sat him.
Oh, man.
And all of a sudden, it was like, I don't know how to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like in a second, it was like, dude, you just did this 8 times in the past 2 days.
I know, right?
And now all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying or what I'm doing.
The dream is that you don't know they sat in the audience, but they happen to sit there on your best show. And then after they love you. That's the dream.
But this goes back to what you were saying, man, because this is how I got myself through that and how I continue is like, I have to tell myself, if this goes the best it's ever gone, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And if it goes the worst it's ever gone, it's really not going to matter.
True.
Like, just go out and do the thing, man, and enjoy it.
It's true. And that is true. And it's hard to finally understand that, like.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it's like I had an audition where Matthew McConaughey was like the director of the commercial, and they didn't tell you that he was going to be there sort of thing. And then you walk in there, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going, Drew?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah." And you're like, and I don't even like I like him, but I'm not like a fan. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's Matthew.
But
McConaughey.
yet it was still like
because
like,
then in your mind you're thinking, I'll be able to say I worked with Matthew.
Or whatever. Yeah, it's like Matthew. Oh my god! But it's just like you're just like seeing someone you just win Best Oscar that year, and then he's going and it's just it's the same thing. But then you're like, well, I'm just gonna have fun with this, you know. And but it is true. It's hard. It's always hard. But I think the more you do it, so that's what I was saying. Like, so doing stand up, I'm so comfortable now performing for no one. Yeah. Like my ego's gone because what I realized is when I had that ego, I had no shows and I was just mad, like really mad. And I was going to therapy all the time and I wasn't working as much because I was mad. And then when I started doing shows, even though they were garbage, I was just so happy again to finally have them again. And then you start getting more shows and then bigger crowds. And then you're doing bigger things. And then the people you respected are now friends and peers, and then you're like, oh shit, like I can do this. And so that's like, and so doing shows for that, like you go into an audition now and I'm like, well, I'm just going to treat acting like I did commercials because and like stand up, when I got back into stand up, my only goal, the only thing I told myself is I don't care about the outcome. I already quit stand up, so whatever I do, it doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I quit magic for an entire year. So people who listen to this have heard the story. And I kind of told you a little bit, but like I was doing magic. I also had this other job that became crazy. And I was like, I got to get out of this. For a year, I stopped performing completely. Took down my website, changed my phone number, gave away 6 months worth of gigs to friends. And then when I picked it back up, it was like I was picking it back up without all that garbage in the back of my mind of like, I got to do stuff that impresses magicians or comedians or like, and it was just like, no, now I have to do this because it's what I want to do.
Yeah. No,
it's totally different.
It's true too. Cause like, I threw it away. Cause I took a class when I first did it too. And I couldn't get that lady out of my head. So when I quit, like her and my dad were gone. And then the Groundlings were gone and everyone was gone. And I was like, I always wanted, like, because I have a weird sense of humor, but everyone was trying to put me in a box. So I was like, you know what?
You're this
I always
kind of
wanted to
comic.
do that weird radio song. Like, I'm going to take that radio on stage and I'm just going to do it. And then I do it at an open mic, which is the most terrible. And then you hear a few laughs. And then you realize that no one else is laughing at anyone. And I'm kind of different. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so, like, then you start doing whatever. You're like, what if I just go to an open mic with nothing written? Except an idea, like, okay, I have like I had this story. I'm like, let's just go. Then I would tell it and record it. I was getting laughs again, and I'm like, oh, what's happening? Like, oh, it's because I wasn't shaking and like freaking out on the stage. Because when you do that, people are like, what is this guy's deal? But when you're up there, just like, ham sandwich, and people laugh, you know, you're just like, oh, okay, like, and then you see other people who are horrible, and you're like, I used to compare myself with everyone. But it's like. I already quit, man. I already quit stand-up. I quit magic, so I don't care anymore. And then when you
so
don't
powerful,
care,
man.
But that's the same thing. Like you hear TJ Miller or some of these guys who are just kind of breaking a lot of rules. And people want them. It's the same thing. It's like you don't be a jerk, but he has a point. Like everyone, I feel like for the most part hates being stuck in this like status quo sort of like thing, and they're all trying to break free of it, but they're all too afraid because they have to pay their bills, which is scary for us because we're breaking the rules, but we can't pay our bills sometimes, and it's freaky. But it's like when you really here we go,
this is like the fourth fire. What's going on in LA tonight?
But when you like really just kind of like you still have to care about the work but not about the outcome, which is impossible to actually grasp until you're just broken, as you were saying. Like when you break is when you break. Like when it's always, everyone's like, I just gave up and I was about to move home. That's when they always break. Or like I quit comedy and I got back into it because my friend got me into it. That's when when you break. You know, like when you give up what your idea of what it's supposed to be is, and you just do whatever the hell it's telling you to do inside, but not even pretentious. Like there's no voice going, do this. It's just like I'll sit there and I'll be like, this is kind of weird.
I like this.
And you just do it. That's why it was so funny at our show, the one that I hosted for you. You were obviously the standout, and then one of the magicians came up to you after, and he was like, man, you're just so funny up there. And it's true, you were, but it was like for him, he was like, how'd you do that? Like, that was the trick. And you were like, well, I just kind of, I write my own jokes. And and he's like, to him, that was like, wow, writes his own joke. Like, because they were, that was the one thing I didn't like about magic was everyone did the same story, same joke, same
I was given this golden chalice by a shaman.
Yeah. Or like, it's like, this is an insurance policy. It's like, who carries that around, But and it doesn't have to be the same words, But that was really interesting what you told me, like, how on your shows some people might be doing the same trick, and so you have to coordinate that. That's insane.
It's weird, man. Well, because it's not even like, I mean, obviously, like, I try everything I do. If I'm going to do a trick with a piece of rope, I'm going to try to do it in a way no one's done it, or like at least the story is mine.
Yeah.
But then it's funny if someone else brings out a piece of rope, people go, "I've seen this trick." So you have to know. Comedians don't go, "Are you doing any political stuff?"
No, well, they are sometimes they do. Like, like I have a friend who has a joke. Well, I have a joke too. We all have jokes that a lot of people have similar ones.
Right.
Like, so
you doing the bit about?
Yeah. Are you doing the bit about I don't want to like steal anyone's bits on here, but it's like I have this joke where I say like I like to smoke a vape pen.
Yeah.
But an old man called me a dirty vapist, and then like I go on this whole rant about it,
right?
And then they come up and they're like, "Yo, blank did a vapist joke," and I was like, "What? What? Like, that's mine."
What?
But it's like, but then Lee, my wife, is like, "Well, the funny part about it is my punchline that I normally do, and he doesn't say that at all." And you're like, it's just similar train of thought, like, and it happens all the time. Like sometimes even with the most respected comics, like if you saw that Louis C.K. Dane Cook thing when they're like yelling at each other about, he's like, maybe I just had like an itchy asshole one day, and I wrote that down too, It's just train of thought. And sometimes it's pretty obvious that they're stealing, and that's just part of the territory. But with you guys, it's all just like, well, we bought the trick too. You bought the trick.
Like
none of you really own it.
Guys buying effects,
I guess if you invented a trick and you owned it, and some guy was doing it, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Well,
about
it's even
that.
What's hard about that is. I mean, for the last 3 years, I've been aggressively like, I don't want to do anything other people do.
Yeah.
And I'll try to come up with something, and then someone will bring out that, like, a similar item. Or a concept. Or he did a trick with a phone. Or this guy said this thing about his...
different enough. You just
I know, but that's where I almost feel like...
your universe of magicians is different.
Yeah. Like, and I feel like just be yourself. Like, that's what's going to make it different.
It sucks when it's really, really, really close in material, and the other person hasn't. Like, okay, so I used to do a bit about IKEA, and it was a long bit, and it was a good bit, but if anyone mentioned IKEA, my friends would be like, "Oh, they IKEA," and I'm like, "So what, dude? Like, you know how many Uber jokes have already happened today, and no one cares about Uber, but IKEA." And then, or like, I did an IKEA bit, and then this girl came up after, and she comes up to me and is literally like, "Hey, don't do that IKEA bit anymore." I'm like, mine is a 3 or 4 minute bit, and you have one line about it, and I don't even know who you are. And it's like,
it's so funny, man.
But that's the thing. Or if the thing is if you're a pro, you just do it.
Yeah.
And you hopefully have your own point of view on it.
Right.
And if it's similar to someone else's, you'll feel it out because they'll get kind of awkward, and then you move on. Or if you heard someone else's, you're like, oh, like Mike was saying, blah, 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 blah. I have a similar, like when I went to IKEA, like you try and use callbacks wherever you can find them.
This is where too, though, like you talk about pros, like pros always come up with unique, original stuff.
Yeah.
However, it's who they are and how they present. This is why you can't repeat someone else's joke and have it land.
Yeah.
Like people are like, "Oh, I saw this comedian." They try to tell the joke, and it's like it doesn't work because you're not them. You're not doing the thing.
Yeah.
Dude.
How do you book shows? That's what I was going to ask you. Earlier. I think that like my next step for me is like I finally kind of been finding my voice. I've been producing my own shows, which are kind of getting people. I've been gaining respect on the scene.
Yep.
But how do you how do you organize it? How do you make it? Like you have a different hustle than I do, and how do you?
It's a different. I mean, I told you like 80% of my work is corporate.
Yeah.
Which is a whole scene in of itself.
Yeah.
Like, it has nothing to do with. It's totally unrelated to anything that you do in LA to make it. You know.
Yeah.
But that's what pays my bills right now.
But how'd you get into that corporate gig?
A big part of it is I work with a couple different agencies who will like put me out for stuff.
Okay.
I for years was like trying to like do the SEO on my website and like have a presence and do all this stuff. And then Google would change one algorithm and the next day I stopped getting any inquiries.
Yeah.
And so then what I realized a couple years ago, and this is probably the smartest move I made from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Is like when you're trying to book a gig, one of the challenges is you bust your ass to get this client to hire you for their trade show or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They book you, you do a great job. Even if you kill, they're probably not going to bring you back next year because they want to make it different.
Exactly.
They got to advertise to people it's a different thing.
Yeah.
So the best thing I did was rather than spending all my time I felt like I was almost like selling houses. Like once I finally get this deal, I made some money, but maybe that person's going to buy a house in 4 years.
They're going to live there for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So the best thing that I did was build strong relationship with a couple of agencies that book these kind of events.
Yeah, okay.
So that I'm not worrying about every company calling me.
Yeah.
They call the agency, and I want that agent to think of me first or me in the top 5 of guys that want to put forward for it.
So how do you, I think you are very good at that because obviously out of everyone I met that night, you're the only one that we became Facebook friends. We've kept the communication up, and now I'm here on a podcast, and we're seeing each other again. And I never felt like it was awkward. Like it felt organic. Like, and everyone there, like I was a little standoffish, not because I think I'm better than anyone, but I'm awkward. The magicians
We're all
you
awkward.
you're all your own crew. Like there was a fool like in a cowboy hat, and then like I was just like I don't have a weird basket of tricks. Like I'm just a guy, so I was a little intimidated, But then you were very nice, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then and then we made some jokes, and then you're in. So what would you suggest? Because for me, it's like I'm friendly with my commercial agents, and my manager. But when I meet all these casting directors, we know each other, but it's very like, hey, like the camera runners. I've been doing it 6 years, and now we're becoming friends. Like honestly, for 3 years, I would see these guys every day and just be like, hello, like, and not say anything to them. And one of my friends, he's a camera operator. He's also a stand-up. I've become friends with him now, and he's like, dude, you were coming into me for like 3 years, not saying anything, and now we're like best friends. And it's like, so do you have any pointers on like, do you go through like a thing, or you just force yourself to say hello to people? Do you remember names? Is there like a thing you do? Or?
There's guys that are better at that, like from a strategy standpoint.
Yeah.
The thing I realized, because for years I would do the same thing. I'd be like so timid, or I'd go do the gig, I'd do an okay job, but I'd be like, no small talk.
Yeah.
But then I realized like, just naturally, I want to connect with people and talk with them. And like, I mean, even us the other night, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to get this guy. You know what I mean?
I want
to
like, too, but I think like when some people are too cool for school, or you think they are, it's the same thing. I'll put them on the pedestal like, oh man, that's blah, blah, blah. And when you're finally talking to them, you're like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Right. Yeah, man. I think the biggest thing too is that like people want to work with people they want to hang out with.
And I think that's my mission statement. Like, literally, buddy, like, whenever anyone asks me, how do you book commercials? I say, and it's so funny you say that, I say, just make them want to hang out with you on set. Because anyone can sell a Nabisco. But if you're funny, but you can listen, don't be too funny. Don't be awkward. Just kind of like be present and connect with them. And that is one thing I have learned is how to kind of connect with people on stage versus like one-on-one. Yeah. I think a lot of comedians suffer from that same thing. But, make them want to hang out with you, because then when you get there, they're just like, "Hey, man," and you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" Yeah, but
I mean, it's not a manipulative thing. Like it's not intention. I do it because I want to just have friends and hang out and like build connection.
But I mean, that's the one thing that you start to notice though too is like you'll see some of these guys at auditions too. Yeah, and you'll try and give them a head nod. Well, if you give them a head nod, they should definitely give you one back. Right. But sometimes neither of you will head nod. You'll just kind of stare at each other, and no one will say anything. And then one day, one thing clicks, and you're like, oh my God, I've seen you for 4 years. Chad, why weren't we friends for 4 years? And it's so weird.
I think too, like a thing that's helped me is that I've built like a pretty close connection of friends that are workers. That are like, and so even though like our friendship and our relationship isn't like, hey, put me out for this. Yeah. If they get a call and they can't do it, then they think of me. I do the same thing.
Same.
I mean, that kind of stuff is like, is like, oh, you know, like if we stop trying to compete against each other, and we go like, okay, if I don't book this, maybe next time I'll book it. Like if my buddy goes and he kills it, then maybe they'll have a magician again or a comic again.
Totally.
You know? So
no, that's a good idea.
I think it's like the whole thing of like take care of each other and we'll all eat. You know,
that's me too. It's like I can see the different. I'm a character thinking of character type is what they categorize me as, which is thank goodness because the people I'm competing against for the roles. There's a big enough character difference that I'm not mad. I'm like, well, he's like way heavier than me, or he's way skinnier and has glasses, or he's tall. Like, there's different variations on a theme. So it's like, pick which one you want. Versus like, you know, like I there's a lot of people that do get jealous. I guess if like, I used to be mad that I wasn't better looking, but now I'm so happy because you're like it is so hard for that shit out here.
Everyone looks chiseled. And
well, yeah, but it's like if you're too funny, then they don't think you're pretty anymore. Even you might be, and if you're too pretty, you can't be funny. And if you're too pretty, you just have to be boring. And most of them are. Sorry if you're pretty and you're listening to this, but you know, that's why ugly people do podcasts. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, it's just an interesting world. But I never get offended by people. And if your act is strong enough, you shouldn't. No one should be able to steal it. Because my stories, I don't do jokes. I do stories. And if someone does a story. And you'll know it's mine. Right. Yeah, it'll be like, so my wife, Lee Newton, did that. And I'll be like, what the fuck, bro? Like that.
Dude, you told that story about my mom.
Exactly. You used her name.
Like, at least change her name.
Yeah. It's not about my mom. Right. Unless you're my brother. But,
dude, I'm hating this because we're at an hour. I know we both got a jet here, but number one, we got to follow up and do this. Number two, we'll stay connected. But how can people connect with you, man? How can they find you on the old internet?
The old internet. I think Instagram's your best bet. Yep. Like, I'm not the best tweeter. I tweet once in a while, but Instagram, it's at local one way, all spelled out.
Yep.
But you could if you just type in Andrew Delman, it'll come up. And and just like I put all my shows on there, and also andrewdelman.com is my website. So those are the two places.
If you're listening to the show right now, click on Andrew's face. You'll see a wonderful picture of him. It'll flip around, and there will be links, and you can click and follow him and stay in contact. Dude, I can't thank you enough for doing this, man.
No, thank you.
I want to talk for like 3 more hours.
We're just going to come back.
We'll circle back around.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. I'll turn this off. We can keep talking.